and for the response not to be rosy when they came out was hard. It was hard. I think it made me sort of... When we made the prequels, it was before social media. There wasn't the same sort of there wasn't the same sort of avenue to hear the audience's response to them, and so what you did hear then was the critics' response to them, which wasn't very kind. I think George Lucas had always decided he wanted to tell those stories in a different way, using his using his visual effects company and digital cameras, and he wanted to tell it. He didn't want to just remake the 3 films that he made in the 70s, and so he pushed into a different area, and people didn't like it. The critics didn't like it anyway. So we were left with that sort of feeling that they weren't much liked at the time, and it was difficult for us because we threw our heart and souls into them. And then now, over certainly the last 5 or 6 years, or maybe even more, I started to realise that the generation of people who we made them for, who were kids when they came out, really like them, and our Star Wars films are their Star Wars films, and they sort of have ownership over them, and it's nice. It feels good. It feels really nice.
It's an old sort of truism, I think, that actors say sometimes it's more fun to play the bad guy, and if you're going to play the bad guy, play one of the baddest there ever has been, and this is...
No, obviously I watched everything I could get my hands on, including the animated version, which I thought was terrific, and I'm a friend of Jason Isaacs. I love what he did, but Deb Chow and I really wanted to focus on, as you said, this was the first time we've had this character in the live-action universe, so finding that physicality, finding that style, that what was driving him, what was beneath the layers. Where was that Jedi that used to be? Where was that guy who was thirsty for power? Where was that guy who now reports to Darth Vader but is not his equal and yet has potentially just as much power coursing through him? And I found that whole contradiction incredibly interesting.
Homeless villains I've ever encountered, and for me he was just this kind of surging of almost limitless power seemed to be at his core.
There was definitely an exploration of what happens when the thirst for power becomes more seductive than life itself, and obviously Star Wars deals with that throughout its many iterations. Why this hunger for control and mastery over other sentient beings, it inevitably will lead to damage somewhere along the way.
So that's now tomorrow, your life is going to change. How are you gearing up for tomorrow?
Reva is a subordinate of Darth Vader. She plays the offensive. She has to be 10 steps ahead. She's got to be first all the time. She's bad. She's dangerous. But she's really good at her job, and I think that's what she's driven by.
Is it good to be bad?
Sometimes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, this is my first time in Celebration, so I've never seen this in such full force. So I think.
For us, we're obviously very connected to the prequels, and we're connected to Revenge of the Sith, and all through the prequels there was such a strong mentorship relationship and a brotherly relationship between the two of them. And obviously in Revenge of the Sith, the last words he says are, "You were my brother, Anakin, and I loved you." So, as you look, for me, it's like when we were developing this story, because we're so much into the issues of what happened in the past for them, that relationship just felt very core and very central to the whole project.
And that was such a different show, but also such a good experience. So the opportunity to sort of stay in the galaxy was really exciting, and also there's so many parts in it.
Do you foresee a second season of this series?
It was never conceived, honestly. We really conceived it as one big story, and it truly does have a beginning, middle, and end. You can never know where it's going to go in the future, so who knows, but this one really was conceived as a real one story.
I do. Yeah. Super